The first actor that we're going to create as a child class of the BP interactive parent is our barricade blueprint. That's something that we defined as a thing that we need to stop the player from progressing during the phase where they explore the worker houses, shown here. And they need eventually to find a crowbar, which allows them to open up the barricades and get inside. So the barricade acts kind of like a door, but we're not going to base it on the door actor. And it also will need a key. So we're using that unlock functionality of the BPI interface for interaction. And eventually, the thing that opens the barricade won't be a key, but it will be a crowbar. So I'm going to right click here on the interactive parent. I'm going to create a child blueprint class, call it BPC, child barricade. So if we open up this blueprint, we see all of our default inherited components, but we need to add a static mesh, or actually we're going to add a series of static meshes because we're going to sort of at a prototype level imitate the way it would look to remove a bunch of boards that were like nailed upon a door frame or something like that. So I'm going to add a static mesh component, and we're going to use the handy starter content. So I'll look for shape cube. We'll just resize this cube. So it appears to be more like a board, really. So we'll just scale it really flat. And that's our first board. And we'll just move it a little bit up. Now that I've scaled this board as one of the boards covering up a supposed door frame, I'm going to just duplicate it a few times here. So we have 4 different boards that would essentially cover the span of a door frame. And now that they've been duplicated, I'm just going to do a little bit of manipulation here, dragging them up vertically where they would fit, making them a little bit haphazard looking, and that seems okay there. Now I'm going to grab the interaction collision. This is the thing that actually stops the interaction sphere trace and creates the basis for our interaction event. I'm going to scale it up so it covers all of the boards. And then I'm going to grab our interaction radius, the thing that detects when the player is nearby, to determine how we display the prototype UI to them in the form of the text render. And it's a lot bigger. I'll make it about 200 units. And then I'll take this text render here. This is inspect. I'll drag it to where it's visible, about eye level for the player character anyway. That seems about good. I'll drag this up to make sure it's properly overlapping the boards. We will change the color of the text render actor just so we can see it against the white boards. Change it to black. And right now it says inspect. That was the default text set up in the parent actor. So let's go and look at the class defaults. And let's set these to be a little more appropriate to the fiction of breaking these boards off of a boarded up door frame. So inspect is okay to start, but say we want this thing to be quote unquote locked. In other words, you can't do anything to these boards until you have the crowbar. So effectively that's the same as a locked state. So when it's in that locked state, we'll call the text to say need crowbar, so the player knows what they need to do when they encounter these boards. And then if they sort of have the crowbar later, they've interacted with the crowbar actor that we'll create later, that's essentially unlocking the thing. So unlock text should read use crowbar. That's going to be what they do when they interact with it once they've already found the crowbar. We also want to set is locked to true by default because essentially you can't open these boards. They're nailed hard to the wall until you find the crowbar. So they're essentially the same as being locked. So if we take a moment and we look at our BP interactive parent again, you'll recall that we created this placeholder event here called start events on interact. That's called when the player interacts with the actor itself. So we're going to override that here in the child for barricade. It's going to be what basically drives everything. So we don't need these events by default. So let's do Okay, there's event start, events on interact. And we're going to do like a little bit of physics simulation. Again, this is not really supposed to be polished. It's just kind of a prototype proof of concept thing. So I'm going to drag references to all these static meshes here. Then I'm going to do set simulate physics. So they basically fall down from their position where they appear to be nailed to the door frame. We want simulate to be true, and we're going to connect all these references to these mesh components to the set simulate physics function. And then to get it started, performing the way you would expect it to be physically speaking, we're going to wake all rigid bodies. And we'll connect these functions one after the other. And then just to make it so the player is not colliding weirdly with physics objects, I'm going to add a small delay so they fall down. 2 seconds, I guess, is okay. And then we're going to set collision enabled. Okay, I guess we'll just do 1. We'll have to connect these manually, one at a time, these references. So we want the collision enabled to be no collision. We just want this at this point for allow the player to walk through the boards wherever they land, because it'll just be better for gameplay that way. You don't want it to impede just the playing of the level, basically. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the logic we need at the heart of this blueprint, because most of the logic is already in the parent actor. So we'll compile and save this. Let's do a quick test of the barricade actor in gameplay in our level. There's this doorway here in the middle that we can use, for example. I'm just going to drag the barricade into the world. I'll show my mesh edge just so I can see what I'm doing a little better. And we just drag this onto the doorway, and it looks like someone barricaded the door. Just save that. Now for testing purposes, I'm going to uncheck is locked. This will allow us to sort of open the barricade without having to find a crowbar, which we haven't made yet. So I'm just going to unlock that for the test. Now I'm going to do a quick test of the barricade actor in the game. So I move towards it, and our sort of interaction radius shows the inspect icon, which sort of clues the player to use their interact button. So I've unlocked this just for the sake of testing, so it should act as if I have a crowbar in my hand right now. So I hit the button, the boards fall to the ground, and I can progress into the room. So that's basically all we need from our barricade actor, and we're all set to use this in the level now.